In this lesson, we'll build the triple tree for the bike. So these pieces are going to connect to the fork tubes and allow us to pivot along this line right in here. And you can see on this frame, I've just taken that half and deleted half of this tube here and just put a symmetry modifier on that just to get that geometry mirrored over to the other side. So feel free to do that and get that entire frame in there. And so now we need to create some geometry to connect these pieces up. So I'll start with a couple of cylinders, and I'm just going to go to the top view and draw a couple of cylinders out. I'll just start with an initial cylinder, just draw that out very roughly. And again, we know the angle of this cylinder, so it's going to be a very simple matter for us to kind of put this into position. Okay, just kind of drop that in position there. And then we can go ahead and now rotate this. -24. Okay, and then we'll just kind of move it up into position using our local reference coordinate system. I'll just kind of scale this up and down in the Z. And just kind of match it up with this dark area right here. Okay. I've got the thickness, get that kind of the same on both sides there. Might be a little bit too thick, but I think that's okay. Then we look in our perspective. We need to move that over. Okay, let's go ahead and take this and smooth it. Go ahead and open that group. Go ahead and smooth that so we can see what's actually going on here. And so now I want to actually create the holes for this. And you could create a tube initially if you wanted to do that. Let's go ahead and dial this down to 12. If you wanted to add a tube rather than a cylinder, that would work very well as well. So let's go ahead and turn that into an editable poly. Select the polygons on both ends. And now let's go ahead and do an inset with a very small amount. Apply that, do another inset right outside of this tube here. Apply that, one more small amount. Apply that, and then let's go ahead and just bridge those together. Okay, so that'll bridge those together with the geometry on the other side. Alright, so once we've got that, we need to now create the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the working pivot to mirror that over. Okay, and I also want to create another cylinder that's going to go right in here. So let's go ahead and again just use the top view here. Kind of create another cylinder. And let's go ahead and rotate that. And this one is going to attach underneath the frame. So I'll pull it down here. And let's go ahead and just pull that right in there. And we can scale it down a little bit. And then scale it up, kind of so it matches up with the scale of the other ones. Okay, so we end up with kind of something like that. We can take both of these and just move those up a little bit. Okay, so we've got these different pieces here. This one we need to now move over, and we can go from the top view if we want to make sure that that's on the center line. Right there. Okay, so now we've got these three pieces that we now need to connect. So I'll just isolate those. Right? And so this one, we've got 12 sides. Let's go ahead and attach all of these. So we'll go to Edit Geometry, Attach, and just go ahead and pick all of those. So now we've got kind of one piece of geometry here. All right. So let's go ahead and just get rid of some of these edges so we can connect these things up a little bit better. So I'll just go through, and you can also, in your parameters, just make sure that you set those settings, set those parameters appropriately. All right, so now we need to start coming through and bridging some of these pieces together. So we know we want it to come kind of straight across, but I want to leave a little bit on the front. So I'm going to go ahead and bridge straight across here. Okay, and let's go ahead and add some segments in here. So maybe something like that. Okay, and knowing this, that we're going to be bridging across here, we don't hit this piece until right here, so we actually probably want to go ahead and select those as well. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and say OK to that. So that creates some geometry straight across there. Now we need to kind of connect this piece up, so we can choose maybe these two or possibly these two to kind of bridge across. Okay, this time we probably don't need that many segments. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just leave that at one segment for now. And let's go ahead and add a couple of these to the mix. We can go ahead and twist that if we need to. Okay, we'll apply that and then do the same thing over here. So we've got these two. Twist that around. Okay, so we're getting some of this geometry kind of filled in here. Now we need to start coming in and attaching some of these pieces. Beyond bridging, we can also just come in and delete some of these polygons. So let's say we delete these, and then we can just merge some vertices together. So we'll take those bottom vertices, and we'll go to our edit vertices and just weld those together. Dial up our threshold until it's big enough. Okay. These two down here can be welded together. Apply that. These two, apply that. Okay. And then this, all of this can be worked in as well. Make sure you apply between selecting those. Okay. So now we're starting to get this all filled in. Okay, so we can now, if we wanted to just, let's go ahead and cancel that. If we want to just kind of delete all these interior polygons, okay, we can do that. Same thing over here. And then take that border, all these borders, go to edit borders and just cap those. And then draw out our geometry the way that we want it. So there's a lot of different ways to fill this in appropriately. Okay, I can go ahead and let's go ahead and draw across here first. So we'll go to the cut tool that we have, and I'm just going to start manually drawing some lines across here on top and on bottom. Okay, we can go ahead and start to bring this line across here and bring that all the way down here and then back across. Okay, so you can see how we can start to create the topology that we want here, and the actual topology is not as important because we know this is not going to deform. We just want to be able to create the shape that we need, which is these two cylinders connected to a third cylinder, which is where this pivots from. And the third cylinder, really the shape is going to be defined back here. We don't need as much of the interior of that cylinder defined here. Okay, so we just come across here. Go ahead and come across here. Same thing on the bottom. Just kind of draw that across. Okay. Come in, and if we delete some of these, we may need to come in and fill that back in, fill that border edge back in. You can always go in and do that by just capping this across, and again cutting across there. If you wanted to get rid of that, you could also just connect up with that vertex. All right. Okay, we'll do the same thing up at the top. And then we could probably add a few lines of resolution in here, add a couple, pinch those out. Okay. And then we've got this triple tree mechanism that enables us to turn our fork tubes. Okay, and you've got another one that would be pretty much the same. It'd be a little narrower up at the top of this. Okay, so you just want to go ahead and duplicate this and move it up. Okay, just kind of move it up here, so we can start to connect our handlebars and such. You probably want to kind of scale that down a little bit, and then extend those fork tubes out through the top. So you get something like that. All right, so once we've got this done, now let's go ahead and start to work on the subframe. So we've got this trellis frame built out, these kind of thick tubes, and then you've got this aluminum subframe that has kind of a decorative look on the side. It's kind of a more aesthetic than it could be. So it's kind of using the structural members and actually adding a little bit of interest to those rather than just having these straight, aluminum pipes and stuff. So we need to create this piece, and we'll start with that process in the next lesson.